Hey, how we doing today? Not sure we have anybody on yet. If there is anybody watching yet, hello. I'm working on some scout cars for the moment. We'll be getting started on the Grey Knights just as soon as we have a few viewers. Right now, since I'm probably talking to myself, I will continue with this other project which I need to get primed before the stream is over. Hey, welcome to the stream to those who just got here. As you notice, these are gray, but they are not knights. Just a few West German scout cars that I need to get primed for tonight for Team Yankee. So they're almost done though. Maybe just a few minutes, and we'll get to the Grey Knights. And it'll give some time for a couple of more people to join up and make sure they can catch the stream as well. But all I have left on these bad boys is literally attaching 4 machine guns. Well, cleaning and attaching 4 machine guns. And if you're not familiar with the scale, these machine guns, they're teeny tiny. So, cleaning them does not take long. Spend more time just bending them back into their proper shape than you do cleaning them. So even something this small has mold lines and flash, lots of flash. Some muzzle flash here. Haha, it's a military joke. You get it? Probably not. Even if you do, it's still probably not great. Alright, that's 2 out of 4. 2 more, then I just glue on these bad boys and we can get to the main event. The key when you're dealing with machine guns on miniatures this tiny is to know which parts are flash and which parts are actually parts of the gun, like the mounting. having done already a few dozen of these. Not really a problem for me at this point. So how's out there today? Any regulars so far? Any first-time people just checking it out? Because I promise it gets more interesting than this. This is the first time anybody's ever had to watch me actually like clean a model on stream. So this is only because we're just getting started and waiting to get a few people on, and then we'll get to the painting part. All right. There's one. Come on. There we go. Alright, one more. One more and we're breaking out the paints. It's a figure of speech. We already have the paints that I need mostly gathered here, but come on, buddy. You're the last one. All right. Set these over here so the glue can dry, and I can prime them later. All right, so I got my 5 guys already picked out and kind of started. They're not going to use these backpacks, so I'm going to have to paint their backpacks. So, at least until I get a chance to actually try out the team a few times and decide if I want to change loadouts, I'm going to start with a leader with a demon hammer, and 2 guys with psi cannons, and 2 guys with glaives. So that should give me a pretty decent start with a lot of firepower and some good close combat capabilities for my kill team. First thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to go over how I do my silver, and we're going to do that using the backpacks that need to get caught up to the rest of the model. So, for my Grey Knights, try to do something relatively fast and easy, but at the same time, like painting a model just solid silver, and then just like inking it, and then, you know, highlighting it with silver, can usually turn out pretty boring. So, what I try to do is actually just dry brush it onto a non-metallic color. And while it doesn't give you, like, you know, it's not a spectacular detail type of approach, it is a an overall more appealing approach to the eye. It doesn't give you this sort of silver that looks like it has no depth or dimension to it. It's a little bit more interesting. Alright. So the blue I choose to start with is Calidor Sky. And we're not trying to do anything crazy here, we're just going to try to get this color, a nice solid blue on here. And it's going to take a few coats because we don't want to go crazy and try to one coat it, because that will make it look horrible. So just a couple of even coats of blue. Make sure to keep it from pooling. And here, just to keep us from having to lay it down, we're just going to take advantage of the magnetized models. Another thing I needed to do before we started was dust these guys off a bit, because believe it or not, they've been kind of sitting around for a long time. Kind of like when, remember when the Grey Knights Codex came out for 8th edition? And there was some hype that they might actually be good. Yeah, it was around that time. Yep. So, they've been gathering dust pretty much since then. Oh yeah, I dusted this guy earlier, so he's good. Boop. I know this looks like too much right now. But we're going to spread it out quite thin. Now I'm starting to wonder if GW just makes a spray of Calidor Sky, because that'd be pretty useful right now. I know they have ones of like darker blues, like Ultramarines blue, probably, or whatever it's called nowadays. Remember, we're not going for the full coverage with this first layer. That would be crazy because we'd end up just removing some of our detail. I'm gonna give it at least 2, sometimes even like 2 and a touch-up coat to really get this color on nice and neatly without messing up your detail. Alright. I'll give that a second to dry and I'll show you what we're going for here. Here was my army prototype. So this is essentially what we're going for with all the other guys. Obviously they're not Terminators, so they're going to be somewhat different. You know, some of the details are done. But this is the basic idea. Alright, so the second thing we want to do is get the gold done. Now this part won't take as long as it does with Terminators, because there just aren't as many gold details. okay if we end up with a little bit out of bounds. We're going to fix it all later anyway. That's a tough crowd today. I probably should have gone with the Death Guard this week instead of next week, but really wasn't going to have them ready to go in time, so... Plus this gives me more time to actually get the rulebook to Kill Team and see what I can do with my Death Guard. Whereas the Grey Knight's pretty easy to figure out what to do to build a Kill Team for them. They're pretty straightforward because they don't have a whole lot of choices. Actually, I can just make this gold as quickly as I want to, as none of the rest of this is going to stay silver in this part. So we don't have to be quite so neat here. Same goes for this skull over here, as the rest of this over here is going to be painted red. Over here we do have to be careful because this hand is going to stay the way it is. Let's see, anything else we want to be gold here? I don't think so. Alright. While that's drying, let's go ahead and hit up the bottom part of this backpack. Alright. Now time to get some Mephiston Red up in here. So we finally get a better idea of how this model's going to look when it's done. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a mess in here. Mostly I'm not worrying too much about ending up with red on the hand, because I'm just going to end up going back later with blue and silver and tidying it up anyway. So I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about being totally neat there. Yep, this is another place I'm just going to have to touch up later. Got ourselves a fuzzy on here. Can't have that. Alright. I think we had another one. Yep. You seem to be creating more touch-up opportunities. So, still doesn't look like much yet. Got a long ways to go here. So, let's go ahead and get our gold shaded. Just a nice, easy coat of liquid cheat. Oh my. Looks like I'm so bad that I missed this whole spot under here. Alright, we'll give that a second. We'll watch the other places first. This one we can sort of go crazy with because everything around it's getting painted something else. You're right, Beside. That is exactly right. I mean, I was not the one who bestowed that name upon it, but it has been called that for a very long time. I think even its predecessor was called that before they renamed it again. Yeah, sepia can work pretty well for golds also. It depends on, you know, how strong you want the shading component to be. Sepia will come out a little bit lighter, but it will also like have less chance of coming out splotchy or anything like that. So with Agrax Earthshade, you have to be a little bit more careful because any place where it overpools is going to be really dark. Seraphim Sepia has that tendency less. And also because it will come out looking a little bit different. So, as you probably figured out by now, I like to shade my golds with more of a dark brown color. Where Seraphim Sepia still maintains, like, you know, the same idea. It's like a little more reddish, but a lot lighter. So it just gives your gold a different look. And, you know, they're both really good for it, in my opinion. But I think that Agrax will give you some stronger shading. which means, of course, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time making sure that it's properly highlighted too. But I have no problem doing that. And Balthazar Gold's a little bit different from Retributor Gold, Retributor Armor rather, which is what I'm using right now. Alright, all our gold is washed. I don't really have any way of... Here we go. While I continue to make this backpack blue. Hey there, Don't Do Backseat Gaming. How are you doing? Retributor Armor versus Balthazar Gold, so let me take a look at... Oh, I have Balthazar Gold here. So, let's put the two together. So here's your Retributor Armor, here's Balthazar Gold. Now you can see Balthazar Gold has a distinctly more copper look to it. Also a little bit more bronze-ish, a little bit more brassy, sort of. So... It says, do you want your gold to look more yellow, or do you want your gold to look more sort of like a brass or bronze color? So usually, like for, I know for bad guys, people like to use Balthazar Gold more often. For really good guys like Grey Knights and Stormcast Eternals, people like to use Retributor Armor more. But which one should you use? Just, you know, when you have a model that needs gold on it, you know, and you're not sure which one, you know, you're not sure right away which one you want to have, try them both. You know, just experiment on a model, try them both, and see which one you like better. Oh, okay, well, Don't Do Backseat Gaming, welcome to the hobby, and yeah, I mean, starting out painting is definitely an interesting thing, and I definitely recommend, you know, sitting down with some of your fellow hobbyists, some of the experienced ones, and learning some stuff from them. I know at first some of it may look rather daunting, but you can definitely learn how to do this stuff. Right now I'm working on something that's rather sort of like fast so I could get it on the battlefield, but now every now and then you'll see me work on something that I really want to take my time with. Just to give you an example of what this paint scheme will look like when it's done, here's my prototype for the army. It's a Terminator, of course, not a Grey Knight in power armor, but it gives you an idea of where I'm going right now with the paint scheme. So this was for my Grey Knight's army, which I've been working on and off for many years now. When am I going to finish it? Well, let me ask you this: when are the Grey Knights going to get a decent codex? There you go. The answer is when both our questions are answered. So actually, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but anyway, yeah. When they're worth painting, that's when I shall actually get them painted. This guy's kind of drunk, so I'm just going to sit him there like that. But are you thinking about getting into Warhammer Fantasy, like as in Age of Sigmar, or are you thinking about getting into Warhammer 40k? Or are you thinking about dabbling into both? I do have Death Guard stuff. As a matter of fact, that's going to be one of my kill teams that I'm going to do, and I may even stream painting it as early as next week. I just want to get the rulebook for it first, so I know exactly what I want my kill team for Death Guard to have. For Grey Knights, it's a lot easier, because there's just a lot less options, and you already kind of have an idea of which ones are good and which ones are terrible. So it's kind of easy to kit out Grey Knights as a kill team and know, you know, what kind of stuff you're going to need. My Grey Knights could take a little bit longer than that, so... Well, backseat gaming, I guess the first big decision you have to make is, you know, which army you're going to go with to start out. That's always the first big thing. Do you have any idea, like, what faction you want to play? I think I was in this hobby for like 15 or 20 years before I had ever even visited a Games Workshop store before. But, I mean, back then they just weren't that common. You know, like having GW's own stores. I mean, of course, there was local gaming stores that had 40K stuff all over the place, but... Astra Militarum, Orcs, or Imperial Fists? Well, if you like painting lots of models, the first two are really fun, but you're gonna have to paint a lot of dudes for Orcs and Astra Militarum. What the old-timers like me like to call Imperial Guard. So if you hear people say Imperial Guard or IG a lot, they're referring to Astra Militarum, or at least what is now Astra Militarum. The copyrightable name that Games Workshop gave them a few years ago. Imperial Fists, however, the model count will be sort of in the middle range, a little more reasonable, because your guys are more elite. Well, Imperial Fist can look extremely striking on the battlefield. You just have to resolve to do yellow properly and to stick with it until you get it down. And it can be tough at first, you know, if you're new at painting and all of that. But you know, if you have some determination to get it right, you can definitely make some very excellent looking yellow models. And I think my best piece of advice if you're going to paint yellow is to make sure you have good coverage, especially with your base coat. Because if you don't have that, your yellow's gonna look like crap no matter what. So, big thing, make sure you have good coverage. You know, make sure that Your yellow covers the model entirely, or at least the parts that you want to be yellow, and then it's nice and even, and not all streaky with like dark showing underneath and stuff like that. You don't want that. I may need a new bottle of Iron Breaker soon. This one's getting hard to mix up. Oh my. This doesn't look right at all. What has happened to my paint? Well, so the backpacks are probably going to have to wait because I need Iron Breaker to do the backpacks, and my Iron Breaker has pooped the bed somehow. Like, I don't know, the binder's just completely shot on it. It's not holding the metallic anymore. It's very, very weird. It's like even darker than Leadbelcher right now, which is kind of weird. Should never do that. Yeah, so even my Leadbelcher is holding strong, but I can't use Leadbelcher for this, so that would not work well. So we're just gonna have to do what we can without that. Luckily, there's plenty to do that is not related to the silver. I don't really need to show you guys how to do the silver. It's pretty easy to just explain it, but it's not the most exciting silver either, but it's fast and looks good with whole units. But it certainly falls under the fast and easy methods for doing silver. Well, backseat gaming, I wouldn't worry too much about it because, I mean, I'd worry a little bit about it, but Games Workshop provides a ton of really good resources to get you started on painting. Now, eventually, you know, if you really find yourself drawn into the hobby aspect of the game, which, I mean, I fell into it completely on accident. I know, I got a few of the models, back in like 1996, and I asked my mom, like, hey, you know how to paint with acrylics, right? Can you paint these dudes for me? She's like, I never said I would do that, do it yourself. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Here's the stuff you need, get started. And yeah, so I did it. Out of desperation, I decided to paint my own models, and it turned out I actually was okay at it, and that I enjoyed doing it, so I kept doing it. And I took a few breaks here and there over the years. Otherwise, I'd probably be a little bit better than I am now. But really the big thing is to, you know, try to learn new things about painting and to always try new things with painting and practice. Just, you know, continue painting stuff so that you keep learning how to execute different techniques and make things work, and which colors go well together. Because you can have all the best brushwork in the world. If your color choices are bad, your model's not going to look great, no matter what. So yeah, the amount of things to learn about painting may seem overwhelming at first, but you'll figure them out as long as you know, have the desire to do so, and just, you know, take it one thing at a time. You know, the big things are learning shading and highlighting, learning how to dry brush, because dry brushing will save you a lot of time if you're trying to get an army on the battlefield very quickly. But at the same time, you have to quickly learn the limitations of dry brushing. The main one being that you probably want to, anything you're going to dry brush, you probably want to dry brush first before you paint anything else on the model. And second, you got to be careful not to mess up anything you dry brushed once you start painting the other stuff. Otherwise, you're going to have to fix something that you dry brushed by hand, and it can be hard sometimes to make things mesh up the way they're supposed to. Washing, you can learn pretty quickly. It's a really fast way to do shading. Probably the only big thing with that is just learning not to overdo it. And at the same time, make sure you put on enough that it actually does its job. So it's just learning the right amount to apply, so that you only have to apply it once. So after you've applied it once, it gets kind of dicey after that. And here I'm just highlighting all the gold with a little bit of Auric Armor gold, just to kind of brighten up the non-shaded areas. Let's get a little bit closer here and adjust the camera a bit. Alright, let's get to working on this shoulder pad here. So, what I do is I take Calidor Sky, and then I take Ironbreaker, which, unfortunately, my Ironbreaker is shot right now for some reason. And the Ironbreaker I dry brush on top of the Kalidor Sky. And then, after that, I lightly dry brush on some Runefang Steel. As you can see for these ones, I don't dry brush the gold with some steel as well. That was something I tried out recently with my Celestial Eternals, what they're called. Maybe for this guy, very different. So, yeah, very different approach with the metals. Sort of similar in one way, but very different in another. So, as you can see, he's so short. Look how tiny he is! Look at this guy. This is like... The guy beside him is not even, like, exceptionally tall by the standards of today's Warhammer models. You know, he's tall, but he's not, like, you know, ridiculously tall by any means. You know, he's probably maybe the size of a Primaris Marine. I mean, let's put him up next to this Khorne guy. I mean, come on. Look at that. I mean, he's just... You know, power armor from 5 years ago is just so puny now. But yeah. So, as you can see, this is a little bit different approach. But this is also much more like a faster approach. You know, just trying to get the army done and get it on the table with a decent look to it. So... Alright, so I'm going to sit this here for a moment. I've got to go spray something real fast, so... And this guy needs to dry a little bit, so I get to the next thing. So I will be right back in a moment. Yeah, I like it beside because it still stays interesting, whereas you just like take a silver and you like wash it with a blue, and it ends up like looking kind of dark, almost black and white, and it's not very appealing. Back before you could say spray paint some German armored cars. Alright, I'm back! Please don't leave! Oh, hey! Good to see we still have people here. Dutifully waiting for my return. Alright, well, thanks guys for that. We'll have to leave, probably like 30 minutes or so, just for an even briefer, spraying real quick, just to get the other side of the models. And then that will be it until the stream is over. There will be no other disappearances from me, so. Let me just put on another glove here. All right. So, yeah, let's get the parchment and stuff like that. Definitely have a preferred color for this. I think it's Xandri Dust. Yep, that looks right. Here we go. Colors I do like to use for parchment, pretty much the same colors I like to use for bone. Xandri Dust, then Ushabti Bone, then Screaming Skull. Works pretty well for me. Even though this is base paint, my Xandri Dust seems to be pretty thin, so it's going to take a few nice slow even coats to really get it get a nice even color. But that's good, because a lot of the times base colors go on too thick in the first place, so for that reason, a lot of people refuse to use them outright, but they're fine as long as you use a wet palette or something that lets you control how thick they are when they go on. I 100% recommend a wet palette. You'd be surprised how much easier it makes things. I gotta grab Codex real quick. Get some ideas here for shoulder markings. So don't want to leave these shoulder pads just sitting like they are. It's no fun. Come on, how can this be a whole Grey Knights book and you don't show me many of their shoulder pads? Alright, that ought to work. Alright, we'll try it out. See how it does. Now it's going to look pretty rough at first. We're going to start chiseling away at it, sharpening it as we go. So don't you worry. Alright. Start out with the weaker coverage white, just to orient us. And we'll bring in the more serious coverage white when we know for sure where we're going to be with things. Remember, when you're freehanding something, if it looks straight, it is straight. That's all you gotta know. Because sometimes it can look straight and actually not be straight. Sometimes it can be straight and it doesn't look straight at all. So just go for look straight. And you can't go wrong from there. Yeah, you can do fancy stencils and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with doing those, but if you can do it by hand and it's faster and still looks good, I recommend going that way. And this is the conclusion I came to after trying to do my own stencils and trying to do my own, even trying to make my own transfers. Nowadays, if I use a stencil, it's just kind of to get me started a little bit more quickly. Like if I want to paint, like, you know, an Imperial skull or something like that onto a model, I'll use the transfer to sort of get me started, to kind of get the basic shape I want, and then I just go and clean it up. Because I mean, most of the time, if you're using a stencil, you're gonna have to clean it up anyway. So. And of course, when you're doing things like adding these little teeth on, you have to kind of eyeball it as you go and make sure that the sides kind of line up together. And if they look like they're not, you got plenty of opportunity early on to try and fix it, make them match up better. Alright, time to pull out our more assertive white. So when you're trying to do lines like this, don't focus so much on painting on straightness as painting away crookedness. So you see right here, this tooth right here kind of veers off. We need to fix that. There. One side of it's looking pretty decent. Now I just gotta get the other side looking good too. So if we look here, it looks like it's a little too much leaning on that side. May have overcorrected a little. There. Alright, Backseat Gaming. Well, I'll be here till 6 p.m., so for another hour, and then I gotta go and do some playing of games myself. But yeah, come and check us out again at 3 p.m. Central Time next Wednesday, and we'll hope to see you then. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Bit of something in there. Let's get that out. Alright. have this little fuzzy here that's just getting in the way here. Okay. I think we got rid of it. Nope. I wish you guys could see these things, but they're so small, like, I can barely see them, so I'm sure they do not show up on the camera. Alright. Should be the last of that one. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is to sort of make these teeth a little straighter. I'm actually going to poke in a little bit further than I should with the white. But it allows me to use a part of the brush that will give me a flatter look on the edges of the teeth. And then I can just come back and fix it with my red. Also taking advantage of the better part of the brush for trying to paint like a flat space. So there you go. What I thought, even I myself thought might look a little iffy at first, I think turned out pretty well. Here, let's adjust the camera focus a little bit here so you can see. Yeah. I know this seems like it takes a little while compared to painting some other elements of the model, but they really do make a big difference in, you know, sort of giving the model that sort of touch that makes it look well painted versus, you know, just kind of slapdash together. And, you know, we're just going to fix this bit of parchment later and get this white in here where it needs to be. It's easy enough to fix the parchment because we've barely done anything with it except under base coat it, so. Also, these make great squad markings, because you can make one 10-man unit or 5-man unit with this kind of marking, and then have another unit with a different one. Like here I have this vertical line with the teeth on it. For another squad, I'll probably do just a horizontal line with the teeth on it to differentiate them. Alright. So here's a good opportunity for me to finish spraying the other models real quick. I'm just going to put that in focus so everybody can see it while I take care of that. Should be real quick and gives me a chance to wash out my paint water pot. Alright, thank you. Yes, that's right, Troxor. Yeah, I'm wearing a top-notch shirt, and that's also where I am going on my way to the game store after I am finished streaming, so... Yep. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yep, been in Austin for quite a while now, since 2009. Let's see, let's adjust the focus range here a little. Alright. Yep, I live in Austin. You just probably don't see me, like, because I don't do Warhammer 40k much in Austin. For reasons not the least of which is that I work Thursday nights, so, and that's their big Warhammer 40k night, so. Second reason being, I play Grey Knights, and, you know, I don't want to make myself feel bad, so. But I may start doing the Kill Team more once that comes out with my Grey Knights, maybe with my Death Guard, I don't know. Probably going to do both, and then, you know, just play them both, depending on whimsy. But yeah, I usually go there on Wednesdays because that's the nights when they play Team Yankee. Also, I'm going to start playing some Malifaux there. At some point. Now that they've announced 3rd edition for Malifaux, I'm going to have to see if I can get in on some of that beta testing. Yeah, a Dragon's Lair. Yep. And this I'm going to touch up the silver on later anyway. So I'm just going to... There we go. Hello, Nuplup. How are you doing? I don't think I've seen your name before, so welcome to the channel if this is your first time. Not bad. Having a productive 2 hours so far into the stream, and we've got about 45 minutes left, but I'm going to see what I can get done in that amount of time. We're just finally getting to the interesting parts. Unfortunately, one of the paints I need for the silver has taken a turn for the worse on me, so I'm going to have to get some more tonight. But that's fine. We can get a lot of stuff done without it, so. And frankly, probably more interesting stuff. Alright. Yeah. Well, if you have to, make sure you bring some demons with you, because he'll be much more focused on demons than heretics. He doesn't like heretics either, but demons definitely take precedent. Yes, live in some nice insulated Tau world. Just don't be born Firecast. Alright. I'll give those a second to dry. On this side, it's really simple because the white's just filler. Just MS Paint, click fill. Oh, so the Tau are split into several castes. Let's see, there's, I mean, it's pretty obvious, kind of. It's like Earth caste, Air caste, Water caste, and Fire caste. Fire caste are the military branch. So everybody born into the Fire caste is expected to be a warrior. And I think Air caste manages all, like, spacefaring and transport and things like that. And between Earth and Water, I can't remember which one is like the administrative and things like that, but their society is sort of divided up based on that concept. Now I remember why I... Yeah, but it also, in a way, kind of reveals that there is sort of a dark side to the Tau in their way of doing things. You know, because everything is about the greater good, sort of the good of the individual and what the individual wants is definitely put to the side in every way. So, you know, if you want to be something, if you have aspirations to be something that is not your, you know, sort of designated destiny in life, then that's it. You're just going to have to live without fulfillment, because you're going to be whatever your given caste has determined for you to be. It's not the darkest possible fate you can suffer in Warhammer 40k, but it's definitely not as rosy as it seems. Well, yeah, that much is for certain. I mean, the Tau Empire probably could not stand up to even a fraction of the Imperium's might if it were, say, completely organized in a raid against them. But the Imperium's kind of an unwieldy monster, so it doesn't really do very well in countering the Tau expansion. But if it were to ever reach total war, the Tau Empire might not even stand a chance. But the Imperium's way too busy for that. And the Tau are not really a total war type in the first place. How does the Imperium work? Let's see. How do I best explain the way the Imperium works? So the Imperium kind of works like like your liver would if your pancreas was dying and you had kidney failure. It kind of explains how the Imperium works. And yet somehow it manages to stay alive. The Imperium has a ton of factionalism, a lot of things going on that people are completely unaware of, and even different Space Marine factions constantly fight against each other for things even as silly as like random ideological differences. Yep. Like, just think of the most vast bureaucracy imaginable, and then realize that you can't imagine how much even worse it is in the Imperium. And even uttering the words, "I want to talk to the one in charge here," could be considered high heresy. Well, the thing is, Orc society is entirely about conflict. It permeates every part of their existence, and so they're never completely organized under one leader, because every potential leader or current leader needs to constantly test themselves against other potential or current leaders to establish who is the best or most dominant, in order to ensure the success of the overall aggression that orcs plan to conduct. I guess not the most clear way to phrase it, but in order to wage their war more efficiently, they need to have the most proficient leaders. And so they're constantly warring amongst themselves to not only establish who the better leaders are, but also to sort of weed out the riffraff amongst them and hone their fighting skills. Yeah, in a lot of ways they don't do this consciously. They're just programmed to do it and believe that this is, what constitutes normal life for them. For them, constant warfare is just, how life works. It's what they like to do, it's what they want to do, it's what they were born for, and in fact what they were bred for. Orcs are unique among other creatures in the galaxy, at least as far as anyone knows, unique, in that they are born with complete knowledge of what their role is in society and how to do it. So, like, if you're a big mech, or at least a mech, you have to be born a mech first. When you're born as a mech, you already know how to put together ramshackle crap and turn it into a death ray. You're just born knowing how to do that. And when you're born as a boy, you already know how to chop people with a choppa and slug people with a slugga, and even point and shoot it at people occasionally. If you're a Luda, you already know how to go and find bits of guns and hammer it together into a working monstrosity that shoots bullets even faster. That's also true. Yep, Tyranids also do have that characteristic. But in a lot of ways, they also have someone compelling them to do it properly. Constantly. Whereas orcs have some potential to operate autonomously. They still usually have somebody telling them what to do, just not in their brain. But yes, that is a good point. Yeah, a Hive Tyrant, after all, can operate autonomously and has unquestionable control over his followers, and understands his role in the whole scheme of things quite well. No, orcs don't have a gender because they are technically fungi. So their whole entire life, they're constantly creating spores, and occasionally they'll give them off, but when they die, they give off all of them. And so wherever orcs have been dying, their spores are just permeating the battlefield. And, you know, eventually they'll grow into another orc. And thus, dying and reproducing are actually both pretty much the same thing for an orc. And why worlds where orcs are just constantly fighting each other tend to seem to just get more and more and more and more orcs. Because as they're fighting with each other, they're essentially also, you know, not really breeding, but they are creating breeding grounds, or more like birthing grounds, for subsequent generations, just by killing each other. And so even when orc numbers get depleted, if you wait a little while, your numbers will get shored up again. But yeah, the same applies also to like Warhammer Fantasy / Age of Sigmar orcs. They're the same way. They're also a fungus. Yeah, you can kill them while they're still incubating. It's just not easy because where they're doing it is not really obvious. I think they can incubate underground and so on, and so it makes it very difficult to eradicate them because it's hard just to find where they are. And that's the problem with Armageddon. Armageddon's just, you know, just covered in orc spores everywhere. Yeah, you kill orcs with flamers and you can get the orc and his spores all in one go. Not to mention, orcs like to herd in big groups, making the flamer also very useful. You have to get kinda close. I mean, yeah, granted, flamethrowers in the 41st millennium seem to not shoot very far. But if you ever saw World War II flamethrowers, they could shoot pretty damn far. People are often surprised by just how far a real flamethrower actually shoots. Because it always looks like they shoot like, 25 feet and that's it. But in game terms, yeah, flamers can really give orcs a bad day. And yeah, they're always going to try to get close to you so they can get in close combat, but a few flamers can sometimes be enough to make sure they'll never make it to you anyway. Depending on how big a group you're dealing with, and how many other guns besides just flamers you're shooting into the group. Yeah. Well, nobody's really friends with Tyranids. Nobody. Yeah, if you're made of organic matter, they want to kill you and absorb you and turn you into something else. And if you're quote-unquote alive, but not biological, they probably also still want to destroy you. Meaning that if you're Necrons, you're not necessarily safe from Tyranids either. Because they are really good at still classifying you as a threat. Yeah, I could imagine that. And I bet the orcs love it. Yeah, you have to, like, sometimes it takes a little bit to get understanding, like, how the orcs really think about things. Like, orcs attack Armageddon because it has strategic value to the Imperium. Not because it has any strategic value to orcs. Orcs could care less about any of the resources on Armageddon. But they want it because they know humans will keep coming back to fight for it. And so orcs can constantly have a source of battle. And they know that humanity, the Imperium, will throw everything they've got at them to try and take it back. And so the battle will just continue to escalate and escalate, which just makes it more and more fun for the orcs. And that's exactly what they want. Yeah, said, give us your souls and we'll inhabit these robots. It'll be fun. You'll love your robot bodies that have no souls. So Necrons aren't necessarily inherently bad guys. Now, in the original fluff for them, they were. They wanted to kill anything that was living, which meant they also really hated Tyranids. But now, really rather than hating everything living, they just sort of have a disdain for it. Like they look down at it as a lesser form of existence. And they also feel just a little bit jealous about having lost their bodies as well, but they'll never, sort of openly admit that that's one of the reasons why they hate the other biological races. But otherwise, they're just another one of those galaxy-spanning empires. And oftentimes somebody on a planet that was once inhabited by them, does something that ends up awakening, rattling the whole nest of them, and then they come out and end up starting a war. But in new fluff, they can be reasoned with. In old fluff, you couldn't reason with them whatsoever. They were almost mindless killing machines. And their star gods, the Catan, were actually still, in control of things. And then newer fluff kind of turned that around a bit. Now the Catan are just shards of their former selves that are sort of slaves to the more powerful Necron lords. Alright, he's starting to come together pretty well. You mean, which faction would I want to live in, if I could live in one? Yeah, Gene Stealer cults. Yeah, it's good times. Not sure that there's a Warhammer faction I would want to be, like, part of. Like, actually live in. They all seem to have it pretty lousy when it comes to survival. So I'm going to show you guys what I do with the purity seals here, because we're kind of running out of time and I want to give you guys a look at it. Yeah, but unlike the creatures from Aliens, you don't die when they're born. I almost let it go, but I don't know if the powers that allow me to use their Twitch channel would necessarily approve. So don't worry, Moon. Yeah, I mean, they all have at least human level intelligence. But yeah, they're under the psionic control of whoever the very first Genestealer was amongst them, as he becomes the Patriarch. Well, they're pretty bad, actually. What they're doing when they breed amongst your society is not trying to survive. What they're trying to do is infiltrate your society so that they can then start preparing to dismantle it from the inside, so that when the Tyranids show up, they can just roll right over the planet with very little opposition. And not to mention that, but also when they start breeding on that planet, they start emitting a psionic beacon that will tell the Tyranids when it's the right time to show up and, you know, start feeding on the planet itself. So they're not just infiltrators, they're also scouts that find worlds for the Tyranids. Alright, there's the first of many purity seals. Yeah, the Tyranids just, like, you know, render them down to biomass like everything else. But it's not like they fight back. They're well aware of what their fate will be when it's all over. Well, that's it for today, guys. This is where we are in this guy. And he's got 4 other bros waiting to go. So we're on our way to having a kill team. Probably about halfway done with this guy. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more than half. But we still have to do highlighting for all the different stuff. We have to do the highlighting for the red. We've got to do sort of a quasi non-metallic metal for the weapon, the blade on the end of it, that is. And then we got to also finish painting his backpack, which has barely been started, but won't take much to do. And then do his base, which will actually be pretty easy. So, yep, but there he is. Doing pretty well so far. I think I like how he's turning out. So, alrighty. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you guys come back to join us again next week at 3 p.m. Central Time. So let me show you guys just quickly what we're working on towards here. If you didn't already see this, this was the prototype for the rest of the army. So you can see what the blade is supposed to look like when it's done, and what the base will look like. May add some skulls and stuff to it too, just to make it a little more interesting and not just this barren, empty wasteland with nothing in it. But there you go. So, alright. We'll see you all next time. Take care.